Hey everyone, welcome to Eye to Eye. A new survey reveals some surprising results about religion in this country. CBS News spoke to the survey's lead analyst about how Americans view their faith.
Two very surprising things that came out of the survey. One of the things that surprised us was how many Americans had a non-exclusive or non-dogmatic view of their own religion. Something like 7 out of 10 Americans who had a religious affiliation told us that they believed there were many religions that could lead to eternal life, as opposed to just believing that their religion was the only one that was true and would lead to salvation. That really kind of surprised us, and that not only is that a large figure, but it extends across almost all of the religious traditions in America. So people who are dogmatic about their faith are a very distinct minority of Americans. You know, I think that this finding is surprising partly because some of the most vocal voices in American society are people who are deeply religious, very committed to their faith, and also quite dogmatic about it. And so our perceptions are changed by that vocal minority. But also, of course, there are many leaders of religious communities who would insist on an exclusivity clause in their religion, that if one believes that their faith is true, then in some sense that means that other faiths are false. And there's a certain logic to that, but most Americans apparently don't hold that particular view. This absence of dogmatism is quite different from the historical experience in the United States, where we've often had intense religious differences between people who quite genuinely and sincerely believed that their faith was the only right one. And of course you can contrast this with other parts of the world, where religious dogmatism and an exclusive view of the truth is very common. One of the other surprising findings of the study was just how diverse American religion is in terms of belief and behavior. It's not just that Americans belong to different denominations and to different religions, is that they have different beliefs even within those denominations and those religions. So we have a fantastic diversity of belief and practice across the religious spectrum. Of course, there are some differences by denomination. Catholics are, in some sense, different from Jews and from Protestants and so forth. But within the Catholic community, within Judaism, within Protestantism, there's a great variety of belief and practice. One of the interesting things we found in this survey is that not everybody that belongs to a religious community necessarily is particularly spiritual or particularly religious in their beliefs or practices. This varies across religious communities. So for instance, American Jews and American Buddhists, many of them did not report religious beliefs or common religious practices to the same extent as some other groups. But frankly, you can find this in all groups. Some people who belong to the Roman Catholic Church are really not very religious. But some people who don't belong to any religious community, in fact, believe in God and take their faith very, very seriously and engage in religious practices. So that's another part of the diversity. People's beliefs and behaviors do not necessarily always line up with their affiliations.